By the time I got home from work today, traffic was already really bad, so I didn't want to try to go to the gym. So I figured I would do a quick at-home core workout. Something that you can do probably in 15 or 20 minutes without a whole lot of equipment. I do have one of these like $15 inflatable Swiss balls. If you don't have one of those, I'll probably show quite a few exercises you can do just with your body. But $15 investment, you can find one of these at Walmart, Target, Amazon. You can do a lot more for core type work with one of those. So I have a little stopwatch on just so I can keep track of things. I usually start core workouts just kind of with a front leaning rest type of plank. This is the most basic type of plank where you're just at the top of the push-up position or the front leaning rest. It's a good warm up for your core and shoulders. I'll usually try to hold this for a minute or two. If you start to feel your shoulders or abdominal muscles or lower back starting to hurt, you can always just come up in the downward facing dog, give your shoulders and back a break for a second, and it's a great hamstring stretch. So I would generally try to hold this, for at least a minute. If you can only start with 30 seconds at a time, hang out here for 30 seconds, then come up, rest for 10 or 15 seconds, and come back down, try to hold for another 30 or 45 seconds. So we're already at close to a minute here. This probably isn't going to be particularly difficult for most people, but it's good to start with something a little bit lighter. Some of the other core and abdominal exercises that I'll do here are a good bit more challenging, so you can always come back to this. I like to alternate more difficult exercises with easier exercises, kind of strenuous and then active recovery. So you could almost consider this a rest position. A lot of times during like fitness tests, when push-ups are part of the fitness test, a person will be allowed to rest here in between repetitions. So I would kind of consider this more of a rest position. And then this is definitely a rest position here. So we're at 2 minutes now. If this is way too easy, you can do, I think these are called mountain climbers. And so a good goal for these might be 10 or 20 on each leg. So we're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Bring the knee all the way to the elbow if possible. You can also come up and hold. It's good to work on that hold there. Sometimes I get shortness of breath when I do things like this, and the front leaning rest or the, up dog or down dog, whatever this is a good way to open up your lung capacity. So we're at a little over 3 minutes now. You might start to feel your lower back working, your abdominal muscles. I tend to feel this more in my shoulders than anything else. I've had a couple shoulder injuries, so for me this personally is more of a shoulder workout than a core workout. Everybody's going to feel things a little differently depending on your own strengths and weaknesses. And we're at 4 minutes of this plank now. So now we're going to transfer into a side plank. I personally like doing planks with my palms on the ground rather than forearms. whatever you like better. If you want to make this one a little more challenging, come up, come down, come up, and come down. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm not really sure what the phone camera angle is pointed at. I'll usually try to hang out inside a plank for 45 to a minute. Actually hit the stop button with my wrist, so I can't see where I'm at. That's the downside of using a watch. Let's try that again. Okay, so we're gonna switch sides now. Hang out in side plank probably for about 45 seconds to a minute. Really want to try to keep the hips up. You don't want these sagging down if possible. Stay nice and up. You can do these to make it a little more challenging. You may feel the side plank here more in your obliques. You might feel it in some of your upper back muscles. Definitely feel it in the shoulders. It's a good shoulder stabilizer exercise. Work some of those smaller support muscles deep within the shoulder. Okay, that's a minute. Now we're gonna rest for a second, take a deep breath. I have a little bit of a upper respiratory infection the last couple days, so you can hear I'm a little bit congested and winded, but doing some light to moderate exercise, especially something like yoga and planks, is probably a good way to stimulate immune function and get better faster. Okay, so we did our front leaning rest plank for a little while. We did some mountain climbers. We did some side planks. What are we gonna do next? So we're at 7 minutes now of some fairly moderate core work. So we're going to transition to something a little bit easier and do some active recovery for a few seconds. I'll work on just kind of a V-sit here. We'll probably do this for close to a minute. This shouldn't be particularly challenging. Probably feel this a little bit more in your lower back than in your abdominals. If you need to make this more challenging, you can do the boat. What is this, boat, canoe, that type of thing. If you have any lower back issues, you probably don't want to do that, especially on a hard surface. If you're on carpet or sand or a yoga mat, it's probably fine, but on a hard wood surface, you probably don't want to be doing a ton of this. Not great for your lower back. You can do these, more of a hip flexor and quadricep action there, but you will feel your abdominal muscles work a little bit harder. You can also hold there. You can come up and hold. Try to touch your toes. Again, I wouldn't do that on a hard surface if you have lower back issues. Okay, so that's a minute of that. Should be fairly well recovered now. We were working on the mountain climbers a second ago. So from that mountain climber position, you can bring that knee to the elbow like the mountain climber. Bring your other elbow to your hip, and you can lift up and hold there for a second. gonna switch sides. Deep breath. Try to hold here for at least 15 seconds. Come back to our front leaning rest. Nice deep breaths. We're gonna do a couple on the ball. So the last one was fairly intense. We're gonna do something a little easier. We're just gonna sit here for a second. All we're gonna do is sit, but we're gonna try to sit without our feet touching the floor. This is probably my favorite exercise in this circuit. You can wiggle around if you want to. You can go forward and backwards. The more movement you're comfortable with, the more your core is going to work. If you're new to this one, you can just sit quietly and not do a lot of motion. We're going to sit here for about a minute and just kind of let our heart rate come down. So we're at 11 minutes now into this core circuit. I was telling you it'll probably take about 15-20 minutes to do the whole thing, and you can repeat it if you want to. So we started with what, 3, maybe 4 minutes of just standard top of your push-up position, front leaning rest plank. We hung out there for about 4 minutes. We did a minute of side plank on each arm. We did some mountain climbers. I think we did another minute or 2 of front leaning rest plank. And we did some V-sit, boat canoe for a little bit. And I think we went back to some mountain climbers, and then we did that hold position for about 15 seconds on each side. And now we're just sitting here for about a minute or 2. Like I said, you can add motion to this if you want to. You can go back and forward and back and forward. The more motion you add, the more you're going to feel your core working. You can go side to side. You could sit here and go side to side like that. You could even hold like a medicine ball if you had one and go side to side. You could do like a bicycle thing if you wanted to, where we're trying to ride a bike. The key is you just don't want your feet touching the floor. So you can hang out here, really whatever you want. But this should be a fun one. This should be active recovery rest. This should not be too strenuous. Once you feel your heart rate coming back down, then we can think about doing something a little more strenuous after this. Okay, so next one we'll do, these things really are a lot of fun, especially for $15. We're just gonna grab the top of this, and we're just gonna hang out in that front leaning push-up position like we started with on the ground. If you want extra credit, you're welcome to actually do push-ups here. You won't have to, but it is really good extra credit. Push-ups are too intense, you can just hang out here. You could also do mountain climbers here if you wanted to. All right, next one we're gonna do is a little bit of active recovery. This is another one that should be fairly easy and fun. We're going to kneel, ball, and we're just gonna hang out. Now, when I was a younger man, before I had several life-changing injuries and surgical interventions, I used to stand on these things. There's a video out there somewhere, I don't think it's on YouTube anymore. There's a video of me standing on one of these with a barbell on my back with like 95 or 100 pounds on it, doing barbell squats while standing on a Swiss ball. And inevitably I fell off and shattered my shoulder. And it was funny because I had done it at the gym dozens of times without injury, and then I tried to do it at my house on hardwood floors, and I had a lot of dogs, and there was dog hair everywhere, and I think the ball slipped on some dog hair while I was standing on it with 100 pounds worth of barbell on my back. That's how I fell off and shattered my shoulder. So I don't stand on these things anymore. But if you're really looking for a challenge, you can stand on one of these. I wouldn't recommend it. But kneeling on them is pretty safe, and it's a good core workout. Okay. That's probably all we need to do, because that is our 16 minutes. Maybe do one or two last exercises real quick. So we'll start in that front leaning rest push-up position with our feet on the ball this time, and we're gonna squeeze in and out. In, hold, out. In, out. And you can do this for 10 reps, 12 reps, 20 reps, whatever you like. Again, you don't want those hips sagging. Keep everything nice and up. Sorry, I'm a little winded. I did tell y'all I had a little bit of an upper respiratory going on. And finally, for our cool down, we're gonna sit on the ball and just do some nice crunches. These are great for anybody with lower back injuries. Very supportive. It's a great stretch. You can stretch all the way back, really open up lung capacity. And we'll crunch up, elbows to upper thighs. And this is one that you want to really concentrate on squeezing the abdominal muscles right here. Now you can go through this motion without really contracting your abdominal muscles. They're kind of working passively, but if you focus on squeezing them right here, you'll get more out of the exercise. You might not be able to do quite as many repetitions, but you will get more out of the exercise. A lot of the core work we did earlier, the planks and whatnot, those focus on working the inner part of your core, which is your transverse abdominis. And the transverse abdominis is the more important of the abdominal muscles to work because it supports your spine and helps prevent injury. So if you only have time to do a small amount of core work, I would say focusing on planks and the types of exercises that work the transverse abdominis, which is a lot of isometric type exercises, stabilizing and supporting work. Those are going to be more important, but a lot of people want to be able to see defined abdominal muscles, and that's the rectus abdominis. The classic six-pack look is your rectus abdominis. And while those muscles aren't quite as important from a structural and injury prevention point of view, the rectus abdominis is your beach muscles your beach abs, and those function to flex the spine. So here the spine is stretched, and we're stretching the rectus abdominis. And here, as we flex the spine, we're squeezing the rectus abdominis. And so even though planks are probably more important, they don't really flex the spine in this manner. But anyway, that's exactly 20 minutes. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. You could repeat this 2 or 3 times if you wanted to. I don't think I've ever done it more than 3 times because that's an hour, and that's probably more than you need to do. Usually I'd repeat this circuit probably twice. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed the video.